Hello everyone and welcome back again to another lesson of Measurement Information Systems. Now, in this lesson, we're gonna move on working with databases. We're gonna start connecting to databases and start fetching out data and reports. Now, as you can see here, I have SQL Server Management Studios open in front of you, and you got and I've got here, in fact, the Northwind database, and I thought that it could be a good idea to use it as a demo to demonstrate how to connect to your database, get data from there, and generate a simple report. Okay, so our task for this lesson is going to be the following: understand what is ORM, Object Relational Mapping, how we can use ADO Entity Framework, and how to use that and utilize it with link link to entities in order to have the ability or capability to get data from our database to our Windows form. Okay, so as you can see here, this is my database, and this is like simple tables over here. And in fact, I got this database from the internet, Northwind. If you don't have it and you have SQL Server Management Studio, SQL Server 2008 installed, probably you will not have it. So just you can go over. I believe it's already in. I mean, just Google it. I believe it's somewhere on MSDN, Microsoft. Microsoft website. So take it. If you would like to follow with the lesson, I advise you, to be honest, to do it on your own project. So if you have your own projects right now and you have your database in there, just run the database, keep it in there, and then start doing the same steps which I'm doing. Try to imitate the queries which I'm gonna write, because the queries which I'm gonna write for Northwind are gonna be a little bit different than the queries for your database diagram or whatever purpose you have for your application, right? Since the database is ready, I will go here in Visual Studio, and I have got here a Windows project, empty project. I haven't touched it yet. I just call it Miss Project. Okay, I called it Miss Project, and I haven't modified any code, just as like file, new project, and then Windows application, and then I named it. Okay, so nothing fancy in here. We already have done this several times. Now I'm gonna come here because I hate to leave form 1 or something like that. Some people like to call FRM main, some people like to call it main. It's up to you. I will keep it like, I'll keep the how can I say, the prefixes. So I'll keep FRM names and all those stuff. So FRM and then the name of the forms and so on. Okay, and the form text. Please make sure that in your seminars, please do not let, like, form 1 as a caption here. I will not allow it. So please take care about that. So I will call this Northwind Manager or something like that. Okay, and I'm gonna show you right now how to fetch data from database. In fact, we're gonna fetch the data of the customers. I'm gonna print all the customers in a data grid view as a demo, and then I'll end the lesson right there. Afterwards, we're gonna move a little bit more to advanced concepts, and I will show you how to deal with these advanced concepts that helps you out to complete your seminars. Okay, so in the Solution Explorer, I will take this one. Okay, now we have our main form has been renamed and everything. Now, very important thing you have to know is about object relational mapping. Now, it exists. The problem with databases and object-oriented programming is they are not compatible. And you will tell me why, and I will tell you because databases are based on tables and rows and columns and relational data. They have relations. There are tables with relations between them, and they have actually algebraic relations, because anyway databases are based on relational algebra. Okay, so basically you have rows and columns and tables and all those stuff. In object-oriented world, you have a class and you have an object, and then this object has attributes or has class members or whatever, has properties. Every object has a property. You see, it looks like it's the concept is even is different. So imagine that you have a class that inherits from another class. Let's say the employee and personnel or person class. If employee inherits from a person class, when you look at it, when you try to put it in a database, there's going to be only employee table. Okay, so that's why there it comes. In fact, you know, the problem where you have to take the employee, which is mixed with a person, okay, these two data, and try to map this or put it in one table. Okay, this is where the collision happens. Of course, there are a lot of stuff that happens other than this. This is like a small example. Okay, there could be even bigger collisions between the object-oriented world and the relational world. Okay, so what happens is we're gonna introduce like a small layer in between called object relational mapping. You probably heard of Hibernate, which is like used with Java. You could probably heard of NHibernate. This is the .NET alternative for people who worked with I don't know, for example, Spring or something like that, for people who are working with JSP and all those stuff. ORMs or GPA. ORMs are there just to take objects from your memory, and then when you try to send them to the database, that ORM will take these objects and map them over your tables. And then when you try to retrieve some data from your tables, will go through that ORM, object relational mapper, and you will get objects on the other side that you can work with. And we're gonna see in a second how this happens. Now, usually people follow the MVC pattern. Okay, in here, Microsoft, when it introduced this ADO.NET entity framework, almost like the model, which is your business model, which is where your classes are squashed, or both of them, or both actually the controller and the business model are squashed all together in one somehow. Not exactly, but not I mean, this is not scientifically exactly correct, but this is how I can get it as close as possible to you guys. So basically, right now I don't have a customer class, I don't have, for example, employee class, I don't have categories class, let's say, but they will be generated from the database which I have. So in order to generate them, first of all, you have to start layering your projects. Okay, so first of all, this is the user interface. Okay, here all the user interface stuff goes in this place. You do not want to put your classes in here. Okay, so I'm gonna right click on the Solution Explorer, add new project, and I will pick up a class library. So I will generate a DLL, and I'm gonna call this class library model. Okay, this is like my model. You can call it business model, you can call it my persistence layer, you can call it whatever you want. It's up to you. Now, once we have this project there, I'm gonna right click on the model project. I'm gonna hit add new item. Now, when I start to add new item, I will choose ADO.NET entity data model. Okay, and I'm gonna call this my data context. So basically I'm gonna call it DC for now. Okay, so this is my data context, and I'm gonna hit add, and I will tell you what the heck about what is data context and so on. Now you're gonna get a wizard afterwards, and it asks you to generate from database. Now there are a couple stuff you have to understand, or you have to know professionally. Basically, in your seminars, because they are small and manageable, you can do this, what you're seeing right now over the screen. Basically, there are two technologies introduced by Microsoft: Link to SQL and ADO Entity Framework. Now, both of them are very, very similar, and there's a very thin line between them. But Microsoft says like this: Microsoft already abandoned link to SQL in general. I mean, technically, I mean, how can I say, on the public, Microsoft abandoned link to SQL. They dropped the support of it. You know, they don't prefer it at all. They always prefer the entity framework. But when you look in the MSDN, they say when to use this and when to use that. Link to SQL is good when you have your databases there and you generate your classes based on the database. Okay? If you have classes, on the other hand, if you have your class diagram and you made all the classes which you have there, then use entity framework in order to map the existing classes to your existing database. So in case if you have inheritances and other complicated inheritances like trees and all the inheritance trees and all those stuff, entity framework will make your life a lot easier to map these inheritances to your database. This is for you guys in the future. Right now for your seminars you really don't need to care about these details, but this in the future when you're gonna start working as a developer one day, then you have to take care about these minor details. Okay, so I'm gonna hit next. Now I'm gonna make a new connection and I'm gonna call this localhost. This is always preferred, and always use Windows authentication. Please do not use this one. And in the database name I will choose Northwind and I'm gonna hit OK. And as you can see here, I get the name Northwind Entities, and here is my connection string. Okay, now I'm gonna hit next, and here it will ask me what kind of tables you would like to generate your classes for. So I'm gonna actually select all the tables, and I will in fact uncheck this system diagrams. I don't need it anyway. So categories, orders, and order details and everything, I'm gonna grab everything. Now of course you have stored procedures. Okay, sometimes you're gonna use, I mean, if you want to use stored procedures, you have to include them. In any case, for your seminars you will not need to create stored procedures. Alright, but in case if you wanted to, I can like show you in an additional bonus lesson. Okay, so and of course the views if you would like to include them, but anyway I will just simply keep to my tables, and I will, to be honest, uncheck this one, pluralize or singularize generated object names. Okay, keep this the same, and I'm gonna hit finish. Now it's refactoring, trying to do all the generation stuff. Now there you go. Now if I collapse this, looking to this diagram, as you can see here, this is actually my class diagram, by the way, or my, yeah, you can call it like class diagrams or entity diagram, and you get exactly the same thing which you get from the database. I mean, right now if I start comparing the relationships between these classes, they are exactly the same like in SQL Server. Okay, now I'm gonna close this because I will not look at it again. You'll look at it once or twice, depends on what you want to do. And let me collapse this, and let me show you one thing. This class is very important, and this is in fact the code behind that diagram. This is the glue which stands between your application and your database. Okay, now please do not change that file, and as you can see here, Microsoft put us manual changes to this file might cause unexpected behavior in your application. Any manual changes to this file will be overwritten if the code regenerated. Okay, so please do not touch that file at any case unless you know what you are doing. Okay, but basically, you trust me, you will never need to touch it, and I will tell you why in a second. Even if you wanted to, you don't even need to touch it. Anyway, you remember when I was talking about data contexts, when I named my EDMX like DC? In fact, when you're gonna actually try to communicate with your database, you're gonna create an object of that guy in the memory. And this object is like, you can imagine like the schema or the map of the whole database. So in the memory you will get like an object of your database, but not without any data, without anything. It's just the skeleton. It just, you get the maps and the classes and everything. How you gonna access your tables? You're gonna say that, you know, that entity dot the name of the table, and we're gonna see it in a second in a query. So we're gonna actually create an object of this and keep it in our hands. Now, if you are asking, this is actually your constructors, of course. Okay, if you are asking where are my classes, where's that customer class, where's that order class, and so on, this comes here, your entities. And as you can see here, categories is an entity object, and this is the namespace, which is the Northwind model, and it maps to the category table. And if you look here carefully in the primitive properties, you'll see category ID, you will see category name, you will see, I don't know, description, the same exact thing. If you look in category, you have ID, description, and name, and you're gonna get actually a picture as well, I believe. There you go, a stream of bytes, because a picture is actually saved as a stream of bytes, and then you have to recast them back again in order to display them. But anyway, this is, you know, this is the picture's property. And as you can see here, every column has been converted into a property. Okay, this is very, very important. Now, I will collapse this, and I would like to pay your attention to something else. Let's say, right now this is outside of the scope of the seminar, but let's say you are working at a company and suddenly you found out that the categories class is not enough for you. I mean, whatever is generated here is not enough, and you would like to generate more options or to get more methods and so on. And as you can see here, it's a public partial class. Right now I have the ability to extend that functionality of that class by creating another file outside the scope of this file and create public partial class categories, and then you can add your own functions in there. Anyway, as we already know, that any partial classes will be joined together with the other files to look like a gigantic big class. We already know that from Windows Forms. Okay, so if you would like to extend for any reason that any of the classes properties or functions or whatever you would like to extend, create a separate file outside of this scope. I mean, outside of, not outside of the namespace, but outside of that file, and then say public partial class and the name of the class which you would like to extend. There is no even need to write this code down. There's no even need to say it inherits from entity object, and then you can type whatever you want. Okay, this is for the advanced stuff. This is when you would like to actually add functionalities to your classes which are locked. Okay, so Microsoft doesn't block from you everything. Okay, now I will collapse this. So basically I showed you here. Sorry for giving you headaches about this, but I wanted to show you here what's going on. And to be honest with you, during your seminars you will never open this. You will never need to, at least for the time being. Okay, so this is what is your data context. This is actually the glue. Again, this is your ORM. This is actually the glue between you as a Windows developer and database. Alright, so since we got this data context in there, I'm gonna go here and over the main form, and in the toolbox I would like to grab from the data section the data grid view. And you know what, let me dock it completely. Do I have docking? Dock to parent container, there you go. So I filled it completely, filled my form completely with this. Later on, this is just a small demo. Later on we're gonna extend the capabilities of this application, okay, to completely different design. So this is just, let's try what we can do. Alright, so we have our data grid view. I will hit F4 on this. So I select the data grid view, F4, and I'm gonna come here and I'm gonna call this data grid view, and I already planned, as I told you, to display the list of customers. So data grid view customers, and Control S that, and let me see. Now, remember when I told you that we have to create a new object of our data context? Now here it comes. This I'll generate here DM for data model class, and yes, please rename this to file. What was prompting is rename the class one in the text as well, and I said yes. Okay, please make sure that this is a public class, and in here I'm gonna say Northwind entities. I'm gonna call this a small dc, so this is my data context, and I'm gonna say equals to new Northwind entities. Now, before that, I'm gonna say it is public static. Now, because your seminars are small, you do this because once you run the application, there's gonna be, in the whole life cycle of your application, where your application is living in the memory, there's gonna be only one object of this. There will be no other ones. If you create a new one or instantiate a new one, it will not be there. It will just simply point to this one again. So you will have only single object of this in the memory. Okay, and it is statically available. Now, professionally, if you're gonna come work with huge databases, it is always preferred to use using, and always try to you create the thing and then you dismiss it, you dispose it from the memory. This is like I found this on, like, in some of the MVP tech blogs or something like that. They advise it to do, they like to do so. They actually don't advise it, but they like to do so. Okay, probably it is the same thing in MSD, and I cannot really recall right now, but you can look up in the internet and see how people code, and you can conclude that. But to make it easier for you guys when you are making your seminars, and since your seminars are not that really big, you can just get away with this for now. But again, just for the scientific honesty, I'm telling you this, professionally, when you're going to work with the huge databases, with the huge data sets, always create these objects and then dismiss them. Do not make them static. Alright, since I made my point, now I will close this because you will not even use this class anymore. Now, next step, in order to query, in order to get all the customers from my database up to here, I will create a small type of classes, or a series of classes. I'm gonna call them my services classes. Okay, so I'm gonna right click over here, add, and I'm gonna add a new class. Okay, so a new class, normal class, and I'm gonna call this customer service. So customer service will serve me as any query that I will do that has a relationship with a customer. This class is going to contain all these functionalities or queries, if you will. Now, most of the students usually forget to make this public. So please make this public. Did I write public? There you go. This is the first thing. Now let us write the query itself. So I'm gonna say public static, and since I'm returning all customers, I'm gonna say list customers. As you can see here under the model customers, oh sorry, there you go. So customers, it's already a class. Get all customers. Okay, since I'm actually going to return normal object, not anonymous object, as we already discussed in the previous lesson. Here I'm going to say var oh sorry, I forgot. Oh man. Okay, var query, some people sometimes like to call it opit, it's up to you again, equals to from C or cust or whatever, I usually like to use one letter, in DM class dot DC in my data context. So right now DM class, I'm addressing this class. DC, I'm right now addressing my data context that is created in the memory, dot, and then I'm gonna call customers, the entity itself, so categories, connections, and as you can see here's my customers entity, or the object set, so there you go, customers, select C. Now, because I'm saying select C, C is a type of customer, okay? Now, since that selection is going to return to me a list of stuff, actually a list of IEnumerables, I'm going to hit dot to list. So please convert this into a data structure, a list data structure, and it's going to be a generic list of customers, as you can see here, okay? Now, at the end, please return to me query. Okay? Excellent. So right now we performed the query. Now what you're gonna see right now is performed only once. Okay, you will not perform it several times. Once you configure your application to work with entity framework and databases, you're gonna be fine. So add a reference. So I'm gonna come here in Mvc project in my UI layer, right click on the references, add a reference, and in here in my projects I'm gonna add model. I'm gonna hit close, and of course I said already, once we start the application I would like to see all the customers, so double click on the form, which is gonna fire up the load event to handle the load event handler. And here I'm gonna say of course, before I forget, I have to say here using model. Yeah, and here I'm gonna say customer service, excuse me, data grid view customers dot data source equals to customer service dot, and then I can say get all customers. Okay, now if I hit Control F5, I'll get an error, and it says the type system data objects data classes entity objects is defined in an assembly that is not referenced. You must add a reference to assembly system.data.entity. You see, I know that usually Microsoft's errors are really large and sometimes scare people off, so they really don't read it and stuff. But seriously, it's already written in there. You must add a reference to assembly system.data.entity. So since Visual Studio told me so, I will do so. Right click on references, add system. Of course I have to go to the assembly section, or in case if you don't use this extension, you have, I believe, .NET framework or .NET tab in there. And in here I'm gonna say system.data.entity. And as you can see here, real quick, I could filter the list, and I'm selecting it, and I call close, and I'm gonna hit Control F5. Now I get another exception. Now if I go into the details, I cannot expand this. Okay, if of course this exception is scary, but let's leave all this, you know, blab and bragging stuff in the bottom, and look at here. If you follow this line, this line, just follow this line until the end. It says the specified name connection is either not found in the configuration, not intended to be used with the entity client provider, or not valid. So he is actually, if you look at it, the specified named connection is either not found, or it's not there. So let me hit quit. So basically he's seeking for a connection string. Now basically your connection string is here, app.config. If you double click on it, you will find the connection string is just right there. Now in order to solve this problem, some people right click on here, copy the thing, and paste it there. Now, personal opinion of mine, my humble personal opinion, please do not do that, because in case that you are deploying your application and you had multi-layered application, okay, and you had to change this connection string once you deploy it somewhere, then instead of changing it in several times, we can actually make a shortcut. Now, how to do this shortcut? Right click on the MS project, or right click on this on your UI layer project, not on the solution but here. I'm gonna hit add, and I'm gonna hit existing item, because it's actually there. Now I am here in the MIS project, so I am actually in this folder. I am in the UI layer. Now I have to go up once in the in the directory, so higher in the hierarchy. I see the model. Here you go. I'm gonna double click, and in here I'm gonna select all files, and I will select, not double click, but just select the app config. Now in the add button you see this small arrow. Now if I click on it, I can say add as link. Now as you can see here, I got this shortcut kind of view. Now if I hit Ctrl F5, no errors, and I get my customers list from my database. Now of course I fetched like 90 something, so that's why it's a little bit heavy to refresh, but anyway, this is the whole data grid view populated with all the customers' data. Okay, so this is as easy as it gets. Oh, excuse me, as difficult as it gets. Not as easy, as difficult as it gets. In fact, what you have seen right now, these errors, adding the reference here, this system.data.entity, and this shortcut, once this is configured, right now you can create your own customer services classes, or category classes, or whatever you like to do, and you can right now make your queries, hook them up with your events like this in some sort of way. We're gonna see other versions of this, and that's it. You just simply project the data on your form. This is as difficult as it gets. You won't see something much more difficult than that. If you already know, if you already remember from your database classes in the early years of the faculty, you will remember how to use joins and other stuff, which you're gonna probably see during these examples. But this is as difficult as it gets. You will not see something much more difficult than that in terms of querying, or in terms of writing commands to get stuff from your database onto your form. Okay, in the next lesson I'm gonna go a little bit further. I'm gonna modify the application a little bit so we can start shaping out what you're gonna do in your seminar exactly. So I'll show you an example how to fetch data from your database, put it on the data grid view. Right now you can make up queries out of 3 tables, okay, and then try to project them into separate forms, and then later on you're gonna modify your application according to what I'm showing to you in order to fit in, or in order to satisfy the seminar work specifications. Okay, thanks for your attention. See you in the next lessons.